Yeah.
How you
Okay, I'll
doing?
switch it back.
How are you, Don? Can you
Get your
hear me?
mics on?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Don?
Everybody hear me?
I can hear
Yeah.
you. Can you hear me, Don?
I'm not hearing anybody tonight. I'm not hearing anybody tonight. I don't know if this thing ain't working again. Monique, I am on the air.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Dawn.
How you doing? I hear you.
I could hear the other guy. He was wanting an audio check, and I heard him just fine.
Good. Well, maybe we can hear everybody tonight.
How are you, Don?
Oh, I'm doing good. Hope everybody can hear me and I can hear them tonight so we can talk to bees. Evening, David.
Hi there, Don. How are you?
Okay, I can hear tonight.
Oh, that's good.
I run that virus check before I start it up, so maybe that helps.
Yeah, you ought to see the queens I grafted. They're
I
really
see pictures of them. Them look real good. I need to have you come over here and help me out.
yeah. They're I went through a couple of the hives this morning and had one 5-frame nuke box that had 3 frames of brood in it.
That's great.
Hey, Don.
Yeah.
I had a queen that hatched probably the 4th or the 5th of July, and I can't find her. I don't know if she's on her mating flights or what she's doing.
Is the hive pretty quiet when you open it?
It's a buzz.
If it's a buzz, you probably don't have a queen in there. The queen could have flew out to mate and never returned.
I mean, it's not. I don't know. It's not really like a real loud buzzing. It just seems like a normal buzz. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, weather has a lot to do with it. Right now, we're running 95 plus here, so mating queens is tough, and we've stopped selling queens here for at least another 2 weeks till it cools down a little bit.
Will you have any queens in August?
I usually have queens up to November until I sell out. And right there, this year, we're already running about a month to 2 months ahead of what we normally do. So I don't know what's going on. Everybody's buying queens, or they're losing their queens, or they're replacing queens that they don't need to replace.
What will happen if I leave that go queenless till say August?
Well, if you don't have any eggs in there, they're going to have a drone layer in there pretty quick.
Because like I said, I don't know if the queen is there and she's on her flight.
How long has it been set up now? Since July?
I think July 4th. Let me see. It was around June 20th is when I set up the hiveless nuke. I mean the queenless nuke. And so they went through the process of making the queen and all that stuff. And July 4th is pretty much when she was supposed to be hatched.
Well, if you went the 20th of June, it's going to take from that point there 16 days or maybe even 14 days if they're using, a 2-day or 3-day-old larva. So you're right about the time that the queen should be hatched. Did you have cells that was actually hatched?
Yes, I had one good one that was hatched, and there was another one there. I don't know if it was that queen that tore the side off to kill that queen. I don't know.
If the side was tore out, you have another queen in there. And the other queen cell, if it's got a nice round hole on the bottom, then you had a good queen usually emerged.
Yeah,
Now, if you don't have a lot of mites in there, you should have a good queen.
There was one in there that was real nice. It was a nice. It was actually the queen that I wanted, and that was a cell that was open, nice and round on the bottom. But then there was another frame that the side was ripped open, so I'm assuming it was the queen that killed that one. But I just can't find the queen now.
Well, if you can't find a queen, what I would do is go to your hive and go to another hive and take a frame right out of the center of the hive. Shake the bees off and add it to that nuke. Put the frame that you're going to add directly in the center of that nuke. That's just going to be an insurance policy. If you don't have a queen at return, or if she never got mated, what you're going to have then, they'll start making cells again.
Okay. I was thinking of doing that, but then I was a little worried if I didn't want to cause any more problems with it.
Well, if you're shaking the bees off and the nuke has enough bees in it, you don't need a lot of bees. Just shake the bees off. That way you're positive that you're not moving that queen. If there's a queen in there, all they're going to do is raise out that brood. If there's no queen, they'll make cells. They might make 10 or 15 cells. And this year, a lot of queens are not returning. There's a lot of people that make their own queens, and they show up here and end up buying some queens because for some reason there's more predators in the air.
That's what I was thinking. I was figuring she was a meal for something.
Yeah. But, making a nuke and letting them make their own queen cells this time of the year, I think is a little risky. If I was going to do it, I believe I'd run an 8-frame box in a single story and pour the feed to them and let them really make some good, well-nourished queen cells. That way it works out a lot better than having them make some emergency cells.
Well, my only reason for doing that in June was I was trying to relieve some of the pressure off my main hive. I was trying to avoid them from swarming.
Well, I mean, you don't have anybody around that's selling you queens, or you don't have extra nukes that you can pull queens out of?
I actually only have one main hive.
Well, you need to get at least two or three main hives. That way, from that point there, you can split off that hive, with some queen cells probably every 4 to 6 days. I could go over the routine on that, and it's the simplest way to make a lot of number of hives, just using queen cells.
Besides that, my main hive, they're actually doing pretty good. They're actually overflowing already.
Well, if they get to the point where they're overflowing, you're always on that borderline. They're going to swarm on you. So you got to have that under control, or have plenty of supers on there, or take your supers and checkerboard them every other frame with a new foundation and give them a place to work.
I've been moving some of the filled frames out that they already drawn out and stuff like that. And I've been putting new comb in there. Well,
Yeah.
new foundation for them.
How you doing, baby?
Well, I'm finding that they draw out starter strips, and they're drawing that much better than full sheets this time of the year. Springtime, I'm using full sheets. It's a quicker start. But there's so much honey coming in when it does come in that the starter strips actually do a whole lot better.
I actually snuck a little honey from out of one of the brood frames they had up top. I wanted to see how it was tasting,
Yep.
and you could tell they're getting all the wildflowers in there because it was real nice and sweet.
Yeah. It changes, about every 2 weeks. There's a new flow coming in, so if you're doing it that way, you can taste the difference in the blooms.
I figure next year when they actually do start producing more honey, it'll be really good for the spring flow.
Aren't you planning on making at least 2 or 3 hives?
Well, that I'm trying to.
Well, if that queen comes back and is mated, you can use that queen to make another split off your strong hive and let them make some more queen cells for you.
When should I go up and check that nuke to find out if the queen came back or not? When's a good time?
Well, when's the last time you was in it?
I go up there every week. I cut the grass and I weed whack and I check the bees.
I'd give them another 7 days. In 7 days from the last time you checked them, you should see eggs in there. If you don't see eggs, I'd definitely drop another frame of eggs in there, brood.
Okay, so next week if I don't see nothing, then just drop a new frame in there for them.
If you open that hive and they're fairly quiet, more than likely you got a queen in there. Even if you don't see her, she might be a virgin queen running around there. Because I've seen young queens, as fast as you can look at one side and turn that frame, they seem to just get on the other side of that frame before you can open it up and look at it.
I might have missed her, but the only thing I've been seeing is a couple of little drones here and there.
You should see a lot more than just a couple drones in there.
I think I only put one frame that had a few drones on the top. I think I threw that in there for them. That way they had some drones. But the main hive has all the drones.
The frame that you put in there, those drones are not going to do any good anyhow. They're going to be too young. They're going to have to mate with either the other hive or drones that's in the wild. Someone nearby has got a beehive, and they're going to mate with it.
Because where I'm at, I'm limited. I don't know if there's any beekeepers around for them to mate,
More than likely, you have hives in trees. You got hives in people's houses or barns and that.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping there's a nest close by that the queen and them they could go mate and do what they have to do and come back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You should be okay.
I'm hoping. I take it day by day. I worry about them.
Well, get you a couple more hives and you won't worry so much. Get your numbers up there, 10, 15, or 20 hives, and it's going to do, a whole lot better. You don't have to worry about losing one individual hive.
I'm hoping next year I want to split them again and get a few more hives out of them, you know.
Why do you want to wait the next year?
I don't know.
You not got cold feet, do you?
Well, no, if I lose one hive, I don't want to lose them all, you know what I mean? I think
Well,
that's what I'm thinking of.
that's what you should be doing right now. I have split my hives up all the way up into the end of September. And I sell nukes and queens all the way up into November. So right now, you should be able to split that hive 3, 4 times, 5 times. And if you split it 4 times, if you lost half of them, you still got more than you started out with. And 4 hives is going to make more honey than the one.
I think another thing too is I don't have the finances for all this stuff, and then I really don't want a lot of hives, you know.
Yeah. Well, you got a table saw, don't you?
I do.
Well, all you have to do is get scrap wood and build your boxes. I mean, you don't have to make fancy frames. You can make them straight. They'll work.
I've been building a few things. I have your Hive top feeder plan, and I actually modified it a little bit for my nuke that I have,
Yeah.
and the bees are loving it.
Oh, yeah. I think that's one of the best things we come up with. That plans on that's been modified in the last 20, 25 years, probably 15 times. And probably the plans that you got, we've modified it a little bit more now.
The only thing I didn't do that you did on yours was that aluminum foil tray that was under it. I just kept it the plywood, and I put a silicone going around this as a seal.
You must have downloaded one of my older plans. If it's got aluminum tray in it, is that a 5-frame nuke with a bread pan in it?
It was aluminum tray. I don't know if it didn't look like a bread pan. It looked like a cake pan. I
Oh.
think.
I think that's an older plan. We've gone to the milk jugs now because they're plastic and they basically last for indefinitely unless you drop something on them or leave the milk jug, with the lid off, open to the sun.
But it's on the nuke, so those bees are cleaning that out like there's no tomorrow.
Oh yeah, you got to put the sugar to them if you want to build up a hive. Sugar's the whole key, biggest secret out there.
I have this stuff that I got, that Pro Health, I think it is, from Man Lake.
Yeah.
And it has lemongrass and all that, the essential oils in it. And the bees seem to pretty much love that.
Well, I'm basically making my own stuff. It's like a Honeybee Healthy or their Pro. There's several different brand names, but basically it's got about the same essence of oils in them. And I'm trying to get some formal ebooks, get them up and out, and it would probably take me 3 weeks to do all the different formulas. Right now, we're mixing up sugar and tea tree oil, eucalyptus, wintergreen, and we're feeding right now in buckets. We're standing buckets up around the yard, and we're basically community feeding right now.
I wanted to try that one video that you did where you put the sugar in the bird feeder.
Right.
I forgot to do that today. I forgot to bring sugar up. I wanted to see them all fly at it.
Oh yeah, they'll work it good. If anybody else got any questions, jump on in there.
Hey, Don.
Yeah.
My name is Scott. I'm a new beekeeper. Started 2 hives this year, and I've watched a lot of your videos. I'm Scott, by the way. And I'll tell you, that essence of oils, you were talking to that other guy. One, thanks for the lead on where to get the oils. When I called the company, and I filled out their paperwork. I figured they'd want a business license and, you know, all that stuff. And I just said, hey, I'm a beekeeper. And she was like, no problem. And so they give you the good pricing. And I tried the essence of oils mixture that you had on YouTube, where you mix it up in the bee lab there. And I'll tell you what, I mean, at first they didn't. I mean, I guess they were consuming it, but it just didn't seem like much because these were packaged bees. And I'd say maybe a week after that, you know, they started going through it to the point that, I mean, I've got these big yellow plastic entrance feeders that you stick on, and they go through one of those in probably like just maybe a day and a half, and I got to refill it again.
Well, that's a good sign. That means the oils are working. Now, if you tell that lady when you order those oils that, you know, I've sent you up there that you're a beekeeper, that she normally give you an extra 10%.
Yeah, I did, and the pricing was excellent.
I
So,
try not to, you know, send a lot of people to different people because I'm trying to do more free information out there and not being paid by somebody to say this is great. These are the things that I basically use myself. So I'm more than happy to share that stuff.
well, you've been doing it a lot longer than I have, and I figure if that's my biggest thing was you hear about the quality of the products, you know, make sure it's food grade and all this and that. I figure if you're using it and you've been doing this how long
Long
and it's
time.
working, then I might as well just copy that. You know, I mean, that's pretty much the success of what McDonald's or anybody else. They're buying a system that works, and so I just kind of do what you do, or you know, from what videos I watch and stuff.
Well, I try not to promote people's products, but you know, in the springtime, there's a lot of people like to promote bee pollen patties. I'm not a big fan of that. If you look at your beehive, and if they're bringing pollen in, it's more than enough to sustain that. And if you're adding a bee pollen or a protein patty there, and if they don't consume that, like a common patty is about a pound. And if you put that on a beehive, if they don't consume in 2 days, 3 days, you're going to be ate up with hive beetles. It's just an attractant for hive beetles.
Okay. I haven't used any pollen patties. I've just been using the essential oil treatment in my syrup.
Now make
How
sure
long should I
that
feed
when you
them, though?
use these oils that you emulsify that with water. If you don't do that for a good 5 minutes, what's going to happen is the oil is going to separate when the sunlight hits it, and the oil will float to the top. And then they're going to consume the sugar water, and they're going to get a heavy dose of just pure oils. And it has a good chance of killing them. But if you emulsify it and keep it mixed, you know, it's simple. Just put it on a blender 5 minutes and make sure it's good and blended. 5 minutes, it'll turn cloudy, milky looking, and it'll stay mixed for up to about 6 months. Most of the time, they'll consume what you mix up probably in about a week, even if you put it in the refrigerator.
Yeah, that was two other questions I had. If I'm making the sugar syrup, how long will it keep if I refrigerate it versus room temperature, and how long should I feed these package bees? I've heard some people say feed them, you know, the entire first year so they can draw comb. You know, I live up here in western Kentucky, in the Paducah area, and you know, I don't know that we have a lot of foliage for a good nectar flow. I know we have a lot of corn, but so, you know, how long should I feed them that?
They're not going to take sugar water if there's nectar coming in, first of all. And the next part of your question is, I used to live in Ohio, in northern Ohio. So we have a very good, in Ohio, goldenrod comes in usually in September. They run to the end of October. And that's usually a good main honey flow. You got asters in Kentucky. You got blue and white or blue and yellow asters. They make quite a bit of honey off of that.
Okay.
The main thing that I would worry about is that you have no mites. by the middle of August, have no mites in that hive, and that's when they're going to start making their winter bees. If you wait till September to start treating for mites and stuff, your bees are going to end up dying probably in January or February.
What do you think the best treatment is? Should I use the mineral oil fogger? I just have the 2 hives, and I don't, I forget the name of the mite guard or whatever, those different treatments, they're kind of expensive, so,
Well, you can use a fogger. The fogger is going to be about a 50%, maybe 60%. You can do the fogger once a week, and you can do it just about any time the bees are flying. It's better than nothing. There's really no such thing as treatment-free, non-treating. Those people there, they're not going to tell you how many hives they lost because they didn't treat. If you get a mite count going high enough in your hive, it's going to crash. So you have to maintain it.
Now, I've got the screen bottom board with that little white tray that slides in there. Do I need to smear, like, Vaseline on it or something, and then, like, do a powdered sugar roll, or how does that work?
Well, those are 2 things right there. It's total waste. First, the powdered sugar, it's going to knock some mites off, but the downside of that is the mite's going to climb right back, and now you have an ant problem up underneath your hive. I don't use screen bottom boards. I got rid of them probably 40 years ago. And most people don't stop to think about, the screen bottom board. What happens is, if you go out and walk in your yard first thing in the morning, your feet's going to get soaking wet from the dew on the ground. As soon as the sun comes up and hits that wet grass, it goes up in the hive through the screen bottom board. And then everybody throws their hands up and says, I got this little insert. We're going to put it in the hive, and then it won't come up. When you isolate that area where the bees can't clean that bottom board, there's a place where hive beetles, a small hive beetle larva, and wax moth larva, ants, they build up in there where the bees can't get to it. You isolate it. So a solid bottom board is the way to go. And I threw away all inner covers about 40 years ago. Anybody that's running inner covers, they're going to have ants and roaches up in there on that inner cover. You're creating a place for them to live.
Okay. I guess I'll have to do away. Could I just take, rip the screen off and take like maybe a piece of 1/4-inch Luan plywood, put that on the where the screen was or something?
You probably could do that, but you're going to have to run it all the way up to the sides where it's totally closed, and then run some caulking around the edges. The whole idea is you don't want no cracks. You want to seal any place there's a crack where they can get eggs. And it's just like people that's got weak hives and they save their comb from one year to the next. In those little holes on the side of the frame, that's where just a few little eggs from wax moth can stay in there, and they start hatching out first thing in the spring and contaminate your hive.
Okay. I bought some of those beetle blaster traps. I haven't used them yet, but I saw a video where you had talked about diatomaceous earth. I was wondering, instead of putting, like, I think some folks put vegetable oil or something in there, could you put some of that maybe?
Well, I would say put it up underneath your hive, but it's just a temporary thing. And what happens is as soon as it rains, it goes down in the ground. It's only going to control the larva reproducing in the ground. And I don't suggest putting vegetable oil in there, because vegetable oil in 3 or 4 days starts to get rancid. And that's just like setting a big barbecue up for them out there. And they just smell that, they come right to it. That's why I done those little beetle traps with the political signs.
Political signs, yeah.
Just a little bit of Crisco on each end, and that keeps the boric acid in there. And see, the Crisco is actually a little bit of an attractant, and the bees will run them up in those little crevices, and they'll stay in there and eat the boric acid, and it kills them. And it's basically next to nothing to do the thing. See, I'm not like the bee supply house trying to get you to buy a bunch of things. There's a lot of common sense stuff out there that people just don't want to try because it's free. It works.
Right. Matter of fact, the guy that sells stuff here locally, when I went in talking to him before I got into this, and he, you know, as a kid, I've always had a fear of buzzing. I guess maybe I got attacked by some wasps when I was a kid, and so I was always scared of bees. And so I went to him and I said, hey, you know, looked at some equipment. I said, what would you charge me to do a hive inspection? The guy says, nothing. Grab this suit. Let's go. And he actually took me on a hive inspection. I mean, I was kind of scared the first go around, and but you know, he wasn't about buy all the stuff. He was actually check out here's the queen, and I still don't see how you guys do that. You know, you can look at a framing up there she is right there, and I'm still sitting there. When I do it, these hives I didn't see my queen for 2 weeks. So. But,
well, one thing too is, you know, a new beekeeper is going to wear a veil. So if you're looking through a veil, you see about 50% of your vision. So, you know, what I'm doing, if you look at the videos, I'm through a hive in just a flash. I hold my frames about waist high or belly button high, and I hold them on a 45-degree angle, and I look down at them, and then I flip them to the other side. And the queen will stand up right away when you're looking that way. And I could go through an 8-frame, 10-frame hive, and usually within a minute to 2 minutes. If it's got 3 or 4, it takes me longer to get boxes off of the hive than it does to go through the hive.
Wow.
It comes with doing it.
You were talking to the other guy about a split. Now, I don't guess I should split these the first year because they're just packages, I guess. But
well, why wouldn't you split a package?
Well, I guess this is where I don't know, because I don't want to split them and then come winter time they haven't built each split hasn't built up enough and they die. I guess that's my question.
Well, you know that the majority of stuff that you read or you hear out there is a bunch of baloney. I just done a video because I get emails and I get people call me. They don't want to buy a package in June and July because it's too late. I've already took half the packages that I put in July and sold them already as nukes. Learning techniques how to make bees. And if you put a package in the end of this month and feed it, it could be split 5 or 6 times before fall.
Wow.
So, you know, bees only do 2 things. They're not, you know, something hard to figure out. They only make honey and they multiply. And if they're healthy, they multiply fast and they store honey. When they get crowded, they make queen cells. That's the time to make splits. Or if your hive is doing real well, invest in buying some good queens. But every beekeeper should be able to make their own queens. I would rather teach you to make your own queens than have you buying queens and be dependent on me. I'm trying to promote beekeeping as an art form, and most people, it's a business to them.
Hey, Don, I got a question for you.
Okay.
I had a feral swarm that I took out of a house. Didn't get the queen, unfortunately, and they made emergency cells and some other queen cells. I guess they were supersedure cells, and they actually had larvae that they put in them. But the emergency cells were the first to come out, and I did see the queen the other day, and she was rather small compared to the other 3 or 4 boxes that I have. Have you run into that situation before?
Well, here's the thing. When a queen hatches out, if they're a small cell bee, the queens are rather small to start with. They don't start getting larger till they start laying. And as far as emergency cells, supersedure cells, you know, I think there's a lot of BS going on right there. If you do any kind of farming and grow up on a farm, if you had a 3-story barn and you have roosters and hens running around the yard, as long as those hens are fertilized, if they lay an egg on the first floor in the dirt and sit on it, it's going to hatch. If they went to the second floor and laid an egg and sat on it, it's going to hatch. If they go into the attic and sit on that same egg, it's going to hatch. So basically, wherever that cell is on that frame, it's an egg, and if it's fed properly, it's going to turn into a good queen. I have not found anything contrary to that. So people want to sit back and say, this cell's no good, and go along and pinch off $300, $400 worth of queen cells because somebody at a bee club has 2 hives and says they're an expert, and those cells are no good because they're swarm cells.
So you think just the fact that it's between her hatching and her mating that she's, because I did read on the internet, I've read, all the arguing facts of the 3 types of cells and which one's better than that and so on and so forth, and I obviously don't know what to believe, but I did read somewhere that when they do mate, they do get a little larger because of the fact that they mated and have to store and all that stuff now.
Well, here's the thing, people, they're led to believe what they read or what someone tells them. And for a long time, everybody wants to replace queens every year. Let's replace our queens. Let's replace our queens. The queens really don't do their best job until they go into their second year. The third and fourth year, they're better honey producers than they are in the first year. When people tell you things like that, first thing to ask them is, do you do beekeeping as a living, or do you just play around with 2 or 3 hives and give a lot of educated information to people?
Yeah, so this will be a real test for me because I'm not planning on replacing any of the queens that I have. So this, what I think is a smaller queen, is going to stay there, and we'll see how she lays, if she does well, if she doesn't do well, if she's whatever. And I've got 3 other hives and different types of bees to compare it to, so other Italian types. So we'll see what happens from it.
Well, the thing is, you have to learn from your mistakes. I've made more mistakes than most people ever could think about, and I can tell you from firsthand experience what works, what don't work, where to save your money, and where to put your money. So, it's your benefit to reap the information that's working. If something's not broke, you don't need to buy something to fix it.
Right. So let me ask you, if you had a frame and you weren't planning on producing a whole bunch of queens, you just, were having it requeen the one that it was in, if you had new procedure cells and you had emergency cells, would you pinch the emergency cells or anything, and leave the supersedure cells?
Well, you're making a decision what you think is an emergency cell and what is a supersedure cell. Right. If you've got a well-shaped queen cell, there's nothing wrong with it. It's going to hatch. It's going to be a good queen. The deciding factor is what drones is available. If you don't have good drones available, then you're not going to get a good mating on a queen or have good offspring.
Well, I've seen plenty of drones in all my other hives, so I'm hoping that there's plenty available.
If you have plenty of drones out there, you're going to do it. You'll have no problem. I'm not a big fan of people that they like to tell you that you need a drone congregational area. Drones, they fly everywhere. They're out there searching for queens. The queens flying around, and the best queen out there with the best pheromone is going to get mated the best. So, I don't set up special hives just for drones. I let nature do what nature's going to do.
I appreciate all your help. You've been great for the last couple of weeks, helping me through some of my new stuff that I'm picking up. So appreciate what all of you do for all of us beekeepers here in the States.
I wouldn't worry if you got a good cutout, and if they've made them some cells, then I wouldn't worry about it. You probably more than likely got good genetics. Go with what you got. If you got a hive and it's not performing the way you want, or it's awful mean, then I would think about replacing the queen. But let nature kind of run its course.
Yeah, I'll do just that. Appreciate all your help.
All right, thank you. Somebody else got a question? Turn your mic on and you can ask your questions.
Hello, Don. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Okay, this is Greg over here in Kingwood, Texas. I
How you
just,
doing?
yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I have a question. I do quite a bit of swarm trapping as far as building I guess they're similar to a nuke box, hang them out in the woods. And I've run across a problem this year that I never have run across. I guess since my boxes are a little on the small side, I'm catching larger swarms. And whenever I go out in the woods to bring the boxes in, I have a ball of bees on the front that's about the size of a baseball. And I don't want to just shut the box off and leave those bees there. I want to get those too. How do I get the bees all in the box so I can bring them all in?
First of all, what size box are you using? Are you using deep frames?
Yes, I'm using deep frames.
How many
It's
frames in
a
the box?
five frame nuke, but I leave the frame out in the middle. So because the entrance hole is on the end of the box, and I don't want to obstruct the entrance of them going in, and I use those little circular discs where I can actually slide it around and I'll have vent holes, but yet the bees are trapped in the box.
What are you
How
building
do I
your
get all the bees in the
boxes?
box?
You build the boxes or are you buying these boxes?
I'm
Are they
building.
wood?
I build everything.
All right, they wood?
Yes.
All right. I would not use that disc. If you're using swarm boxes, if you want to go a little bit lighter, you could use plywood on the sides, on the ends. Use 3/4 plywood or use 3/4 standard boards. I would put a 2-inch hole in it, 3 inches up from the bottom, and I would have all 5 frames in it.
Okay.
And what
But
are
how
you
do I get all
putting
the
in there
bees?
for attractant?
How do I get all the bees in the box, or do I just let them hang on the
Well,
box and throw them back to the truck and go?
when you have a ball of bees like that on a swarm like that, I would almost guarantee you if you was to go through it with your fingers, you're going to find 1 or 2 more queens in it. That's what
Oh,
they're doing. They're balling up, protecting the queen.
oh, I never thought about
So what you need to do is carry some extra queen cages. Are you working these bees with your hands or do you got gloves on?
gloves.
I would try
Gloves.
to get you some latex gloves and go through them with your finger or take your hive tool and just take the hive tool and push them over onto the palm of your hand and lay it on top of the lid. And just take your hive tool and slowly just move them around a little bit. And I would say you're going to have probably 1 or 2 extra queens in there because
Okay,
that's
now
just nature.
you understand that I'm down here in South Texas
I
where
understand.
we have a lot of Africanized bees, and I mean whenever you get a swarm of them, there's no doubt because they're hostile and they're very protective.
How
Of course,
far are you from Austin?
how far am I from Austin?
How far from Austin are you?
Oh, I'm 4 or 5 hours away. I'm just north of Houston, down on the coast.
Okay. I have a student that is in Austin or just south of Austin, and he works his bees in shorts. Now, he's got one of his bee yards. He wears 2 bee suits. He's come here. He's bought some of my stock, and he works those bees in Texas right now with shorts.
Yeah.
So,
Well, okay, that's good. Some of the swarms that I catch aren't mean. It's just every now and then. And when I catch a mean swarm, I usually just pinch the queen and replace her, or let them rear a new one. And anything that's mean, I don't keep.
well, you have to look at those bees. I wouldn't kill a queen if she's laying. You could send some of the offspring off and have it tested, If it's, if it's Africanized bees, just putting a new queen in there from general stock will slowly work it out. I used to sell a lot of queens to a guy in Brownsville, and that's all he does is pick up swarms.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll keep that in mind, and whenever if I start catching some that are mean, I'll probably give you a call and order some queens from you and try yours out.
How are you setting your boxes up to catch your swarms?
Oh, I don't. I'm going to be 60 years old. I don't like to get on ladders, so I put them about 5 to 6 foot high. I catch all the bees. I have not bought. I do not buy bees. I catch this year. I've caught between 15 and 20 swarms in the last 2 months.
Are you putting foundation on those frames?
I'm putting strips. I make my own wax strips.
Yeah, that's good. You must have your own wax mill then.
No, I just melt the wax down. I wet a paint, like a paint stick that you stir. I wet it and I dip it in the hot wax 3 or 4 times, take a knife, shave it off, and I got a wax strip.
Yeah. Yeah, that worked.
Yeah,
bees do it in the wild all the time.
Yeah, and then, sometimes if I get lazy, I'll buy the pre-made foundation and just cut strips and use that.
Yeah,
but I let them build all their own. It's more natural.
Well, the queens that you're pinching the heads off, what I would do is take them and put them in alcohol and use them as queen lure.
Okay. Yeah, I just use strictly lemongrass oil. But what I have found is it's not necessarily how you bait, it's where you place it. Where you place it. We have a lot of bios down here in Houston. Yeah. And if I find a wooded area that comes to a point, that's where I'll place the box, at the points next to the water, and shoot. I've caught them in less than 24 hours, catch swarms that way with just lemongrass oil.
Well, you should start selling those nukes then. Get new queens put in there, and you should be making a living doing that.
Well, I don't know about making a living, but I'm sure I'm having fun. It's more of a hobby to me, Don.
Yeah. It's always nice to make a living at what you enjoy, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, I give a lot of honey away. My neighbors love me. But anyway, thanks for answering my question, and that's what I'll do. And nice to meet you. I've been on here a couple of times, had some technical problems, but I just got home and booted the computer up and seen where I had an invitation. I said, well, I don't want to miss the bee chat tonight.
Well, I'm hoping to give a little information out and help people up all over the place.
Hey, one of your best videos that I really have enjoyed is where you take the plantain and, if you get stung by a bee but what I did, I made a salve out of that plantain.
Right.
And my grandson's a swimmer, and he gets a rash on his hands from the chlorine, and that's plantain salve. Man, it just works miracles on all sorts of things. So that's really a good tip.
Well, I'm trying to get a bunch of ebooks out, but I need somebody local to kind of help me on a lot of this technical stuff. I'm still back in the old age yet.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you on that one. But appreciate your hard work, Don.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Don, I got a question.
Okay.
Hey, Don, well, I started making my own queens.
Yeah.
And I know the book says once they start making their own queen cells and things like that, the first queen that comes out goes around and kills all the other queen cells. Is that true, or is it after they mate?
Well, they're going to go around and start cutting cells down. That's, pretty much the truth there. But if you're going to do it, you're going to need to get in there and get your timing down to get all the queens to come out in one day, or to get them to come out within an hour or 2 hours from one another.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Are you just letting them draw their own queen cells?
Yes, sir. What I did was I flooded look like you said, and removed the queen, and they started popping up cells everywhere.
Yeah.
So I did that like 9 days ago, and I noticed there's some queen cups in there, and some of them are sealed off. and I was just worried about only one makes it, and then a predator picks them up on their mating flight, have to start the process all over again.
Well, that's why you should cut your own cells out. And when you start to see the cells being formed, mark on your
Yes, sir.
calendar. Give it 10 to 12 days maximum and cut them out.
Okay.
It's gonna show a cyber, Matt.
All right, Don. Thanks, man.
All right, appreciate it.
Okay. Told you. But it takes like 5 to convert someone. That's only a few of it.
Somebody else got a question, jump on in there. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Hey Don, your wax mills.
Yeah,
Is it two mills that you get, or is it just one mill?
1 mill is all you need, and I'll teach you on the mill you're going to buy from me. You will be able to run it like a professional when you leave here.
Because I see some you see online, it shows the flat, like just a flat, smooth mill, and
Right.
then the mill next to it is the one that has the foundation and the indents in it.
No, don't need it. I'm not going to sell you more than you need. I'm going to sell you a mill that you can work, and it's going to be, what you like. You don't need to buy a flat mill. I'm going to show you how to make it. If you want to see how it's done, you can look on YouTube. I've got a video. There's 4 or 5 parts to it. It shows you how to build you a dipping board and dip flat sheets, and you can make flat sheets and cut them out.
I actually have that plan too, so I actually do watch the video.
Yeah. But if anybody buys a mill, I make sure that you can run that mill when you leave here. You're going to take the mill that you was trained on. So you won't have to call me up and say, I got a mill here and I can't get it to work. Now, if you buy a mill from somebody else, I don't care what company you buy it from, there's no instructions with it. And when I train you on somebody else's mill, I charge $100 for the day. But I'll be glad to sell you a mill. I keep 3 or 4 in stock all the time.
I think I'm going to build up the hives. I want to at least get 10 before I start doing a lot of stuff, you know what I mean?
Well, the wax mill, I've had a lot of people that say, it's an expensive thing, but the majority of people will pay for that mill in 6 months. I don't like to sell my own foundation because it has no chemical in there, but if I sell a deep sheet, I get $2 a sheet. And 2 people can run that mill. It's a hand mill. You crank it. You can make 1,200 sheets a day at $2 a sheet. As long as you've got good foundation or good wax, you can make it all day. They're all steel mills, and I've had ladies that buy them and paid for them in 90 days, just rolling sheets out and rolling them up in hand-rolled candles with the bee embossing on it, with the cell size on it. And I stock all the 4.9 mils. I don't stock the larger ones. Anybody else got a question?
I got one, Don.
Okay.
We had a couple queens hatch, and we ended up actually having like 2 that are really small, not much bigger than the worker bees. Is there a trick to where you can produce longer queens?
What are you making queens on, plastic or wood and wax?
I'm slowly getting rid of the plastic with the going to the wax, but this is off a plastic foundation.
All right, if you're getting a really small queen, more than likely you've got quite a few generations of brood or cocoons built up in the wax. Is the wax about 2 years old?
No, it's new.
Or it's brand new?
Yeah.
I don't know. You might just have small cell bees in there and you don't realize it. Your small cell queens are a lot smaller to look at. They actually don't get much bigger until after they're mated for about 3 to 4 days. Then they start getting a little elongated. But going on about 6 months or going into the second year, they get huge.
Okay, I was just wondering because that's like I had one here, my father had one, and I just thought it was weird that we had the small ones compared to the bigger ones we were also getting.
Well, when you're buying queens, you're buying usually mated queens. So the mated queen has been laying for a while, and the abdomen is going to be a lot bigger. You know, you're starting from like a baby and growing it up to a teenager. There is basically what you're doing. So once they start laying, they're going to get bigger. If you go into that hive in 30 days and you don't see good cells, good worker bees, then I'd replace the queen. But I think that will straighten itself out.
Okay.
If you're going to talk, you got to turn your mic on because I can't hear you if you don't have your mic on.
Hey Don, I don't know if you remember my father talking to you about having a hive full of angry bees.
Uh-huh.
Um, Yesterday we just went through and split it up to 3 nukes, and we still couldn't find the queen. But we did the 24 hours with all the nukes. The problem he was having was every queen he tried to put in there, they'd kill it. Should this fix the problem?
You running Russian bees?
No, Cornelius?
They won't usually kill the queens unless you're putting a nail through the candy. Are you letting them come out themselves?
Yeah.
If you put that candy or the queen cage in there, you want to put it horizontally with the screen facing down. And don't put no nail through it. It should take 3 to 4 days for that queen to come out. If they're aggressive and they're trying to kill that queen through the screen, then more than likely you've got a queen in that box. You might have a virgin running around.
Okay. Yeah, we even put just a frame in with queen cells, and they just go right through that queen cell and get rid of it.
You have to have a virgin queen in there because if you put a frame in there that's got queen cells, the only reason they would tear a queen cell down is it's either gotten overheated, you bumped it, it's damaged, and they're tearing it down, or they've got a virgin queen in there. Because if there's no queen in there and you have all of the eggs and larvae more than 3 and 4 days old, they know they're hopeless, so they're not going to kill the only chance to survive, and they're survivalists. There's always a reason why they're killing a queen or a queen cell.
All right, thanks, Don.
You're trying to talk, turn your mic on and we can hear you. Ask all your questions you want.
I got a question, Don.
Okay.
So, I live in South Dakota. What would be the last day you think I can raise some queens and get them mated and built up?
I'd say you probably could go up into middle of October. If you've got a good drone population, I wouldn't be afraid to try it. You got a longer, this year your jet stream is a lot different than it normally is. You're running a lot warmer than you should be.
Yeah, it seems like the whole summer's about a month behind. I agree with that. But I want to try and avoid the mistakes that I've made in the last couple of years where the honey flow comes to an end and I've got all these mouths to feed. And so rather than letting that happen, I was just going to split them after I pull the supers off and give them each a queen, or give the queenless portion of the deeps a queen cell, and then basically double my numbers going into winter.
I think what I would do is I would take a portion of the hives, if you're pulling them down, getting the honey supers off, I would split those hives down, make 2 or 3 nukes out of them, and run them as 5-frame nukes with a high top feeder on them, and save enough honey back that you can feed them. I would run your hives with sugar water up until probably the first week or the second week maximum in November. From November then up into February, up into 1st of March, I wouldn't feed no more sugar water. Feed honey, and it takes less honey, and there's less moisture in there. And the bees will keep that nuke a lot warmer. There's a lot of northern beekeepers that's been watching the videos, and they send me emails. They're doing 5-frame nukes all the way up into Maine, New York.
So
And they're finding out they're doing better. 5-frame nukes.
Just one story, though?
One story.
Okay.
But the whole principle of it is it holds the heat down. And if you had 1 super on there, they have to heat that volume. If you had 2 supers on, they have to eat twice as much honey to heat that volume. And the only reason they're going to die off is if you're putting moisture in there, feeding sugar water. Save a portion of the honey to feed back a little honey. The honey's going to go a whole lot farther than sugar water, and it's not going to kill bees.
Right. Yeah, I just was trying to get my numbers down and, basically double the number of hives that I have. Basically just to try and keep them all fed and give them a fighting chance getting into winter anyway.
I think numbers is going to win out. If you're doing those 10 frames out there and do 3 splits off them, or even 2 splits, you double your numbers. If you lost 50%, you're still even. But
Right.
you shouldn't be losing 50%. If you got the honey, feed them the honey, or put a lot of sugar water to them up until maybe the end of September, and then take the excess honey and use that for feed. Because you should have a good goldenrod flow.
Yeah, they dump Roundup and 2,4-D on everything around here, so goldenrod is hard to come by too. But
No.
we got some, here and there, but not, big fields of it like we do clover.
Well, the clover, if they don't harvest it before it blooms, you should do pretty good on that. Most farmers, they seem to do for the horses, alfalfa and clover, they like to harvest that just about the time it gets ready to bloom.
Yeah, they do that with alfalfa here. They get about a 10% bloom and then they cut it. But the area where I have my bee yards that's surrounded with with alfalfa fields. So there's always plenty for my bees to get to. And then the clover, it seems like we're having another really good year for clover, and that just grows wild. Nobody harvests that, but probably 2nd or 3rd week in August, that'll be going to seed and drying up.
Yeah.
But then we'll still have alfalfa until the first freeze.
Are you wrapping your hives?
I didn't last year. I did the year before, though.
I've had people tell me, up in North Dakota and Minnesota, they're putting three sides of it with bales of straw and is doing better. I've had people say shavings on where you have your, instead of your inner cover, they're putting like a high top feeder up there, just a blanket box, and they're filling it up with either shavings or they're using one of those thermal blankets.
I put on my hives last year. I put a piece of 1.5 inch that pink foam.
Yeah, yeah.
And I still had pretty significant losses, but I definitely improved my moisture problem by putting that pink foam up there.
Well, what's happening is with that styrofoam, you're building up a lot of condensation. So where you got your box set, what I would do is put you a 3/4 hole in the front, one in the back, and put you some hardwood cloth across it. And just that area there, you get you some ventilation through it, and it'll kind of wick out all that moisture.
Right. Yeah, I think the foam. I think the styrofoam actually helped the condensation, though.
Yeah.
Some of the hives that I inspected midwinter were pretty dry compared to previous years.
Are you running any vent holes on your hive bodies?
I still have inner covers, and they're all notched.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't have roaches and hive beetles and stuff like that you guys have to deal with.
Yeah.
I have spiders and wasps. That's about it.
I think I would try, doing some ventilation holes in the front on your boxes. I know I've got people in Michigan and that, and we've talked about that. And they tried closing up their hive too much and it gets too much moisture. They got moldy bees dying out in the spring.
Right.
But if you get your entrance reducer down to where you have 6 inches and 3/8 high, that would be maximum for the winter. And then have a 3/4 or a 1 inch vent hole under the handhold on your hive bodies.
Right.
And the additional holes there helps with the circulation. If it's too much, they're going to propolyze that hole across.
Yeah, I have that on the to-do list for this fall. So
A lot of things get on that to-do list. I got so many things that it might take the next 3 years to get to it.
right.
Hey Don, what's the average amount of honey you put on for a nuke for the winter?
You mean how much honey do I harvest?
No, how much do you feed the bees during the winter?
You shouldn't have to feed them no more than about 1/4 to 2 quarts a month. Because when you break your big boxes down in September, they're going to start downsizing, and the queen's going to start shutting down a little bit. She's going to start regulating that box. And it's going to be common to run 2 to 3 frames of brood in a 5-frame box. And you pretty much could run it most of the winter.
Okay, thank you.
Had a lot of viewers tonight. Been all the way up to about 23 at one time. Don't be bashful. If you see and you can hear us, jump in there and ask your question. I guess some people will be watching it later on YouTube.
I actually took your advice, Don. I stopped using inner covers and all that. I have no problems with nothing anymore. I had one cockroach in there with the inner cover. As soon as I got rid of that, nothing. There was nothing in there.
Well, if another thing, a lot of people don't think about is water for the bees. If you want to make more honey, a simple thing like putting a hive top feeder on a hive. I don't care if you're running 10 frame, 8 frame, 5 frame. You put a hive top feeder on there and keep it full of water all summer. You will make 20 to 30% more honey, because the common sense thing of it is the bees are hauling water back and forth. I don't care if the water is a bird bath 20 feet away. young bees, baby bees can't get out there. So the adult bees have to haul the water. But if you've got a hive top feeder, they'll crawl up to it and get it. So every bee going in and out of your entrance, just about every bee is going to be hauling nectar, not 30% or 40% going in and out just hauling water back to the hive, because they have to take it from one point to the other. So it's something to think about. Don't cost you nothing. Put that hive top feeder on there. Keep it full of water. And on your hot days, they actually use that water like air conditioning, and it helps cool the hive.
Now you put that on top of the honey supers too, or no?
You can put it right on top of the honey supers.
I'm gonna have to try that this fall for the fall flow.
It'll work. It ain't gonna cost you nothing to try it. Water's cheap. We got people coming in and going out of the chat, and they're not asking no questions tonight. Well, if nobody else got any questions, it's just about 9 o'clock. I'm going to head out of here. If you got a question, I'll hang in there and answer your questions.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you, Don, for your advice, and I'll see you in the chat next week then.
Okay. You have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks, Don.
All right. We'll see everybody. Appreciate
Thanks,
you
Don.
coming.
Bye.
Thanks, Don.